Well, we'll show another newspaper front page to talk about what we're going to, we finally got the NFL.
Right.
And what a fantastic day. The Jaguars and the mascot there on the front page.
Yeah, I was in Chicago for the announcement. I was in Chicago for both announcements when they announced that Charlotte was going to get a team and that the other team was going to be deferred, and then we went back a month later on November the 30th. Jacksonville was given a team. The NFL really was delaying, trying to let St. Louis get their act together. They really wanted a football team in St. Louis. They brought Dan Deerdorf into the mix. They really tried to put a group together. And in fact, they even offered Wayne Weaver an opportunity to be the owner in St. Louis. And as strange as that may sound to people now, he lived in St. Louis. I mean, he was very familiar with that, but was committed to the people here, Tom Petway and Touchdown Jacksonville, and really felt like that this was a place that he could make a go of it. So consequently, when we went back up there, when it was pretty apparent that St. Louis wasn't going to get the franchise, Jacksonville became the front runner over Baltimore as well, and over Memphis as well. I happen to had a very close relationship with the Weavers, David Selden as well, and Touchdown Jacksonville and Tom Petway. And they invite all of the groups into these big suites, separate suites on this floor. So I went along with them, and they threw all the media out, and I reached over and grabbed the plans of the stadium, and I put them up in front of my face, and I sat there, and one of the principals in that group knew I was not supposed to be there, but graciously kind of nodded and smiled and figured I was just doing my job. And Ron Weaver came in the room about 15 minutes later, and he was red-faced and breathing heavy, and he said, "We're going to get an NFL team." And I said to him, "How do you know that?" And he said, the two committees are going to vote in favor of us. I said, "How do you know that?" He said, "Somebody on the committee told me." I said, "On the committee?" He said, "Yeah." And there's a book written recently about the history of football in Jacksonville, and there's a line in there, and it's really one of the few mistakes that I found in the book, that David Selden, who at the time was kind of the CEO of the team putting things together, was supposed to call a news organization, Channel 4, where we had a very close relationship. We helped sell 10,000 club seats on our air, and say a code word. And the code word, and he picked up the phone and dialed my news director at the time and said the word tangerine. In the book it says nectarine. It's a small difference, right. But he said the word tangerine. And remember, this is 1993. Cell phones were kind of new, and coverage was spotty. Right. I went and stood by the window, and my phone rang, and I was standing 10 feet from Selden, and my cell phone rang, and I answered it, and my news director said to me, "Tangerine," and that was the code word that we're going to get an NFL team.
Well, that was 1993
right.
when that decision was made, and indeed the stadium was virtually torn down.
Oh, absolutely.
And rebuilt.
And a lot of people don't realize, Harry, that there had been a small renovation before that, that the West Stands had been torn down when the Jacksonville T-Men were there, which is a soccer team in the North American Soccer League. The West Stands had virtually been torn down and rebuilt, with the configuration of the press box very different. And
the first game in 1995,
right,
against the Houston
Oilers,
right?
Jaguars lost 10-3 in that game,
right?
But it was one of those events that just, I mean, when you lived here for a while. At the time, I had lived here for 14 years, and I went to the stadium in disbelief. I mean, they're going to play an NFL game here.
And there are a lot of people who live here now who missed out on all those years of
absolutely
hoping and struggling.
And that's a big part of the culture of what the city has been about. And I'm hoping that Mayor Payton and subsequent mayors understand that about our town. That we got an NFL team because we strived for it and did the things necessary and had the kind of community feel. There are many other things that we can do that with, whether it's education or just kind of helping to get people together throughout our city.
Okay, the biggest highlight in Jaguar history, in your opinion, I've written mine down here, would be 1997. Jaguars win, stunning upset in second ever playoff game, defeating Denver 13-3.
That's mine.
Would that be yours too?
Yeah, I thought maybe you were going to say something else, but that's mine.
Yeah.
I'm standing on the field in Denver, and there's a picture, a lot of people have seen it, of Jimmy Smith making a touchdown catch. And I'm within 5 yards of Jimmy Smith. I saw Mark throw the ball. The ball comes down, and Jimmy runs right past me and catches the ball. And I look up at the scoreboard, and I realize the Jaguars are going to win this football game. And it's the second most stunning upset in the history of the league, and certainly the highlight of games played. I've never seen a town be more on fire than the night that we got the team. And I stayed in Chicago to continue the coverage, and we sent the rest of the news team back. But when the Jaguars beat Denver, we were on live. We went on live from 10 o'clock in the evening until the team arrived in Jacksonville. We stayed on for 3.5 hours live, and I was on a rooftop in Denver. And, there's a story that is absolutely true. The plane got special clearance from FAA and JIA to fly over the stadium. Mm-hmm. People didn't have anywhere to go. They wanted to celebrate together, and they didn't know where to go. So all of a sudden, people jumped in their cars and drove down to the stadium. And they finally opened the stadium. They weren't going to open the stadium.
Even then, I suppose there were some people who were thinking about a Super Bowl.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
But it was really a far-off dream.
Yeah.
Far-out dream.
And that was one of the, that was kind of a way that Jacksonville stayed connected with the NFL. Year in and year out, as a news organization, we would travel to the NFL owners' meetings with Mayor Godbold and subsequently Tommy Zuri, Ed Austin, to the NFL owners' meetings where they would make the decision as to where the Super Bowl would be. They were making a presentation in Washington, D.C. at L'Enfant Plaza, and as they walked in the room, Jake Godbold grabbed me by the arm and said, "Come with me." Well, I just figured he wanted another guy in a coat and tie from Jacksonville in the room, And I walked in and stood up against the wall and watched the presentation. And it was pretty interesting to see how the owners reacted to Jake and the whole Jacksonville crew. They had a certain affection for them. It was pretty obvious that they weren't going to put a Super Bowl here in 1982, but they had an affection for Jake and for the entire kind of organization.
And they built on that.
And they consistently built on that. Went to all the meetings. Rick Catlett was a big part of that as an assistant to the mayor, and really built on that. And I don't know why, but I was standing in a Tampa airport one day, and the guy standing next to me was Hugh Culverhouse. And I'm waiting for my bags. Now, what Hugh Culverhouse is doing at a commercial airport, waiting for his bag to come out, I don't know. But he turned to me and he said to me, "Hey, Sam." And I said, "Oh, hey, Mr. Culverhouse, how are you?" He said, "That was a pretty good meeting." And I said, "Yeah." He said, "We're not going to put a Super Bowl in Jacksonville." I said, "I know." He said, "But I'm really in favor of warm weather, neutral field championship games." Because he wanted, that was right after San Diego had to go to Cincinnati to play in the coldest game ever for a championship.
Right.
And he was very much in favor of that and wanted Jacksonville to host one of those as a prelude to either getting a team or getting the Super Bowl.
So Super Bowl 39 will indeed be in Jacksonville.
Yeah, it's hard to believe every time you mention it.
It is hard to believe.
I keep thinking about, okay, well, when the Super Bowl comes, I got to do this and do that. And then I realize, wait a minute, I'm going to sleep in my own bed.
February 6th.
I don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah.
That's right.
And so what's your prediction? We're taping this on December 14th.
Right.
Who's going to play in our Super Bowl?
I think it's hard not to pick the two teams that would be the favorites, the Eagles and the Patriots. I've stuck with them. The Eagles seem to really be on a mission this year. Their addition of Terrell Owens, the continued maturity of Donovan McNabb. I think that and their defense obviously has played very well. And I think the Patriots have shown, they added Corey Dillon in the offseason. They can win in bad weather, and that's a kind of a prelude to if the championship game has to go through bad weather. Teams like Green Bay and New England and Pittsburgh, obviously, and Philadelphia, I think, have an advantage.
About 30 seconds left, Sam. Half hour has gone very fast.
Wow, that was quick. Yeah.
But football is very important to the city's economy, isn't it?
I think it's
college and professional.
It's a big part of it, and I think the city needs to understand that it's not an ancillary thing. It's part of the culture of Jacksonville. It's part of what people think about. People will ask me, can you come speak to us on November 20th? And they'll ask me that in May, and I'll say no. And they'll go, well, how do you already know that? Well, everybody in town knows they're going to be at the Florida State game that day. everybody knows that the first weekend of November or the last weekend of October, they're going to be at the Florida State game. So I think the city administrators need to understand that football is not kind of an ancillary thing. It's a big thing that's woven through people's lives.
Sam Kouvaris, thank you for being with us on the Jacksonville History Show.
Thank you for having me, Harry.
And don't forget, Sam will be with us on January 27th for a program at the Historical Society. For more information, call us at 665-0064 or visit us on our website. So long, everyone.